Green Sea City was a place where nature and civilization blended, a place rife with rich cultural heritage. There, nestled between the Emerald Mountains to its east and the Green Sea to its south, lay Red Leaf Park, with a crowd gathered at its center. A large banner hung between the trees, with Boan Insect Fighting Tournament written in large letters. A young girl squeezed her way into the crowd as it broke out in a huge cheer. Luran won again. He won last year too, right? Yes. He dominated back then too. While the crowd was buzzing, a boy about 16 or 17 years old stood up on the stage under a bald old man, a reluctant gaze. Thanks for going easy on me, he said with a smile. Insect fighting was one of the folk traditions of the Yule Empire, and it was referred to as Byung crickets fighting in the northern regions. Just now, at this insect fighting tournament held in Red Leaf Park, Luran led his beloved insect general to victory against a group of experienced veterans, ultimately claiming the title of Insect King. You little rascal. Luran had never lost an insect fighting tournament ever since he started competing. How was that possible? How could a teenager have more experience with cricket fighting than a group of old men? Luran laughed. It was just luck. Suddenly, he felt a gaze coming from the crowd. A chill shot down his spine. Well, everyone, you be leaving first, Luran said, his expression quickly changing. He immediately put away his beloved general and squeezed through the crowd. She was tall and beautiful, with long dark brown hair tied into a ponytail and a pair of long, slender legs. Her vibrant face set into a dark expression. So you took a sick day just to attend this insect fighting tournament? Why did you answer my call? Fang Lan questioned. She then crossed her arms, waiting for Lu Ren's explanation. I was too focused on the tournament, and my phone was on silent. Lu Ren said wryly, You do know that you'll be a high school senior soon, right? Feeling a headache coming, Fang Lan started massaging her temples. I know. I've go back and take remedial classes tomorrow, Lu Ren replied helplessly. I'm telling you this for your own good, Fang Lan exclaimed. She then looked at the jar in Lu Ren's hands. Well, at least you won the tournament again. Not bad. Green Sea City is a major city in the insect fighting community. Every old man in this park has decades of experience. Yet I heard you annihilated them all, Lu Ren smiled. Sometimes talent is more important than experience. What a compliment. Fang Lan scolded. I'm asking you to focus on your studies first. After you finish the college entrance exams, you can do whatever you want. I know, Lu Ren said, waving her off, but I'm not interested in insect fighting anymore. There ain't just no challenge left. Say, should I take up hunting? My ancestors were hunters, so maybe I have the gene for it. He fell into deep thought. In the modern day, hunting helped develop the country wildlife resources, control wildlife populations, and maintain ecological balance. None of those had anything to do with him, though he simply had a pet at home that was naturally aggressive and needed a suitable place to vent its pent-up energy. Till this day, the Empire still had many places where hunting was allowed. Thinking of this, Lu Ren opened the jar and released the treasured insect king just as he said. This hobby has lost its appeal. Hunting. Fang Lan looked at Lu Ren blankly. You don't want to use your husky as a hunting dog, do you? Lu Ren shrugged. The only thing it has in common with a hunting dog is that it looks like one. It likes to fight, though, so I can still train it. It when not good to keep that aggression pent up all the time. Talking about this is pointless, though adding a hunting license is too hard. I hope you're kidding, Fang Lan replied in frustration. Suddenly a thought crossed her mind. Wait, you still haven't let go of that matter yet, have you? Are you preparing to go to that place? Number? Even if I wanted to go, I could just hire a professional team. Why would I go through all the hassle? Go still. Let me go, it's about to rain, Lu Ren hurriedly said to avoid the topic. Confused, Fang Lan looked up at the clear sky. It wasn't remotely cloudy. It was on the weather forecast. Lu Ren waved his hand and dragged her along. Well, that was a lie. It was actually the insects in the park that had told him. Soon the sky over Green Sea City was overcast with dark clouds. Realizing that a storm was about to arrive, Lu Ren and Fang Lan ducked into a restaurant to avoid the rain and grab lunch. You'd be attending school in Mystic City the day after tomorrow. You'd be a senior this coming school year. Why don't you stay at my house and let my parents cook for you? Fan Lang suggested. That way you won't have to order takeout every day. It went unhealthy. After taking a sip of the tea she was holding, she added, My parents have talked to me about this several times. I'd be fine on my own. Tell our parents, I said. Thanks, though, Luran replied. He then drank his tea as well. You mean godparents? Okay, thank my godparents for me. He and Fang Lan were childhood sweethearts, and their parents were close friends as well. Hence, when Lu Ran's parents passed away, the Fang family adopted him. Lu Ran, however, moved out on his own as soon as he was able. His parents had left him a large sum of money, enough for him to live comfortably. I give up. I would tell them to talk to you themselves. Considering how stubborn Lu Ran was, Fang Lan knew that she wouldn't be able to convince him. To put it nicely, he was a free thinker. Quire, put it bluntly, he was rebellious in all things, big and small. Don't worry, I can take care of myself. Just wait for me in Mystic City. I will come see you next year and I need my senior sister protection then. You're laid to pass the exam, Ferk, Fang Lan said and crossed her white legs as she scrolled through her phone. Thanks to her perfect grades, Fang Lan managed to get into Mystic University this year, the best university in the South. Influenced by her parents' careers, she majored in veterinary medicine. Although Lu Ran had decent academic performance, Mystic University had strict admission requirements. Thus, this coming school year would be crucial for him. It'll be a breeze. Lu Ran didn't think much about how difficult it was going to be. In fact, he had even decided what major to apply for. He figured it was probably going to be something related to animals, though, such as Beastmaster. Fang Lan suddenly shouted. Puzzled, Lu Ran looked at her. What? What a Beastmaster? Is that even a real major? Did she mean zoology? Fang Lan's sudden outburst made Lu Ran assume that she was talking to him. However, it soon dawned on him that she was actually reading something aloud from her phone. I saw a post. Wayne, I just sent it to you, Fang Lan said. A second later, Lu Ran got a notification on his phone. He opened the link that came with it. Title: Help. Do you believe in the existence of supernatural phenomena? Huh. Reading the title, Lu Ran frowned. Below the title, the author wrote, So here's the situation. About a day ago, I suddenly got a mysterious black card. At the same time, a row of text appeared in front of my eyes, and I suddenly heard a voice. It asked me to use this card to contract and capture an animal as a familiar, which would allow me to become a Beastmaster. At first, I felt like an anime protagonist being sent on an adventure, but things were not that simple. Following the card and instructions, I completed the beginner mission. Afterward, I was suddenly teleported to a very dangerous place filled with wild animals. I almost died. My familiar was severely injured while protecting me. The doctor says the wounds are critical and there's not much they can do. What should I do now? I get the feeling that our fates are bound together. If my familiar dies, something bad will also happen to me. Attached to the post was a photo of a large cat that appeared to be petrified. Its eyes were gouged out, and one of its legs was missing. It looked miserable. Covered in gray blood and strange injuries with a serious expression, Fang Lan asked, Did you read the entire thing? Lu Ran nodded. Yeah, Fang Lan raged. There ain't something wrong with those injuries. The picture must have been photoshopped. Here probably some kind of sadistic animal abuser. This seemingly lame, third-rate story had to be some sort of clickbait. It was so obviously fake. Or did that guy think he was some kind of chosen one? Lu Ran agreed. Such people were common. His eyes were still glued to the screen, though at first glance, the post did seem like something an animal abuser would post to attract attention. However, Lu Ran was quite interested in articles that appeared to be fake on the surface. Supernatural phenomena. A scene suddenly appeared in front of his eyes. Sass City being invaded by countless monsters. That dream again. Lu Ran sighed inwardly. He had been paying special attention to news about the supernatural due to his secret. He could hear the uninner voices of animals. He had the ability to understand animals and communicate with them telepathically. He gained this ability 2 years ago. He had been proficient at first with practice, however. He could now hear the voices of many species. This ability was the reason he could predict the weather and dominate Green Sea City. Insect fighting tournament. But with this superpower came a strange dream. He would occasionally dream that the city was being invaded by various monsters, and that he died tragically, only to suddenly wake up and realize it had been a dream. Lu Ran had tried going to a doctor, but they couldn't find anything wrong with him at all, so there was no doubt in his mind that something was wrong with him. Consequently, He felt that something must be off with the world at large, too. Eventually, though, he realized that he was the only abnormal one scouring through the internet. It was easy to come across some weird stories or odd rumors, but most of them were ultimately unconfirmable or fake. For that reason, despite taking the article seriously for a moment, he still ended up shaking his head and dismissing it as another fake story. He had seen so many of these random pranks that he no longer fell for them. This world was fundamentally rooted in science. Just then, the waiter finally served them their food. Luran put down his phone and turned to Fang Lan. "Letter E," he said. Fang Lan nodded. "Okay." The picture attached to the post was quite gruesome, yet Fang Lan didn't lose her appetite over it, as expected of someone born into a family of veterinarians. As they started to eat, Luran paused for a moment and asked, "Are you going to take your pets to the city with you?" "Of course," Fang Lan replied. "I still have to update my blog every week, or else my fans will miss me." Fang Lan ran a cute pet blog where she anonymously posted about her pets. However, Luran always criticized her for calling herself a cute pet blogger. After all, her pets consisted of snakes, spiders, scorpions, centipedes, and the sort. How were any of those even close to being considered cute? Luran shrugged. "Looks like you've have to find a place to live by yourself." If Fang Lan were to sneak into the dorms with these cute pets, and one of them got loose, then even if the resident assistants did care, her roommate would strangle her in her sleep. Would anyone be okay with their roommate keeping a pet in the dorm? Specifically, a scorpion, centipede, or snake? "So what, I can live alone just fine?" Fang Lan muttered apathetically. "Make sure you pass the exam and get in so we can move in together and split the rent." Appalled, Luran replied, "Bro, you make it sound like I adore your pets. Am I scared of them too?" He was a fearful person, but when he was just 7 or 8 years old, Fang Lan used to torment him with arachnids and reptiles. The experience gave him deep-seated traumas. "Why can she be more ladylike? She hasn't changed at all. Wouldn't cats and dogs be cuter?" The two continued chatting as they finished up their meal. Eventually, the rain stopped. Fang Lan was going out with her best friend. Later she paid and left ahead, leaving Luran to pack up the leftovers. Luran knew that Fang Lan and family cared about him a lot. She even looked for him specifically, just to check on him. How lame. A moment later, Luran also left the restaurant. As he walked through the door, he felt the moist air on his skin and saw a rainbow in the sky. His mood kept changing. High school is so boring. I don't even have a lot of free time. He couldn't wait to graduate and get into college. Before he could walk far, a voice made him stop in his tracks. Luran raised his hand and stared at it. A black card had suddenly appeared on his palm. The card was the size of a playing card and felt like it was made of plastic. It wasn't a punch card from the restaurant or some random flyer from a marketer, though it just magically appeared in his hand. Luran felt like he was starting to hallucinate over. Everything seemed muffled as if he was underwater. Along with the voice, lines of text started scrolling before his eyes. Luran's expression became more and more incredulous. What is this? People walked past Luran, who remained standing on the side of the street. He was sure that the voice he had heard was not an animal, that it felt different from when he used his ability to telepathically talk to animals. Luran took a deep breath. Contantrack card, familiar Beastmaster. He immediately recalled the post that Fang Lan had sent him. The author's story was exactly the same as what was going on with him now. Could the article be true? Luran stood still on the street as looking down at the black card in his hand. His body began to go numb and heat up. How could this be? No, it was possible. Luran remembered the supernatural phenomena that had happened to him. This world was certainly far from ordinary. Beastmaster. It sounded similar to the insect fighter profession. Hence, it piqued his interest. Thanks to his parents, he had developed an interest in anything animal-related, from insect fighting to studying paleontology. Could my ability in this black card be connected, judging from that post? It seemed like more than one person got the black card, so it not like, the chosen one. Luran froze as he thought about his strange dream again. If there really were supernatural occurrences in this world, did that mean his dreams were a premonition? If they were to turn into a reality, would the world be destroyed? Though heroes could carry the skies on their shoulders, if they were to fall, they could possibly save everyone. Luran thought back to how he had died in his dreams, souring his mood. He wasn't so indifferent to this world after all. I should test this out. Numwa of how it all worked. Luran continued to study the black card. Tip 8. If the contract card is not used within 24 hours, it will automatically disappear, and the holder will lose the qualification to become a Beastmaster. Through the prompts, Lu-ran quickly realized that he could choose not to use the so-called contract card if he did not want to carry out the beginning. Giving up is not an option. Lu-ran put away the black card and took another look at the form. He had already memorized all the tips by now, and though they were crucial, they were far from enough. He wanted to add the OP as a friend to ask some more questions. He needed to know more. Lu-ran clicked on the link again with great anticipation, only to find himself stunned. Where's the post? Even after refreshing the page, the post still didn't load. He kept tapping the screen, but nothing happened. Who made that post again? I can believe the admins have deleted it. What kind of bastard would remove something so important? Did Fanglan report it? As he stood there, Lu-ran suddenly felt a chill. I can waste time on this, he said, and began to adjust his plan. He was only given 24 hours, which put him on a tight schedule. He would have to keep checking the forum while working on the mission to avoid missing out on any important information. All he knew was that after contracting a familiar, they would both be teleported to a danger zone. Fortunately, though it seemed there would still be a chance to return. Having some prior gaming experience, Lu-ran quickly associated the idea of beginner missions with game tutorials. I need to get a familiar with strong combat abilities, otherwise I do end up just like the oak. Although Lu-ran wished to contract a ferocious beast, it was unrealistic for him to find one with high combat ability in such a small city within the next 24 hours. Even though he could communicate with animals, it didn't mean that he could get along with all of them. He had been chased by stray dogs on more than one occasion after trying to chat them up. After analyzing the situation, Lu-ran reached a decision. To be safe, I should choose him. With that idea in mind, he immediately headed back home. Fortunately, he lived in a nearby upscale neighborhood, which was only 10 minutes away by bike. After much deliberation, Lu-ran decided to make a contract with the animal he was closest to. That guy obeys orders 100% of the time, so my familiar at least want to go rogue while we've in the danger zone. The wren picked up the pace. Soon he arrived in front of his house. He pressed the fingerprint sensor on the lock and opened the door. Woof! Seemingly sensing the movement outside the door, a wolf-like figure jumped out from the house and pounced on Lu-ran Woofy. The creature then stuck out its tongue and began whimpering in anticipation. The creature had a graceful body, thick fur, upright ears, a brush-like tail, and blue eyes. On its forehead were 3 white marks that looked like 3 burning flames. The beast was Lu-ran Pet Husky, a breed traditionally meant to be sled dogs but was now commonly nicknamed Doofus for its cute and foolish appearance and propensity for mayhem. Lu-ran had raised Doofus since it was a puppy, so the two of them got along quite well. Thanks to the training Lu-ran had given Doofus, it learned to perform a variety of tricks and behaved even better than some police dogs. Go to the corner, Captain Doofus. You're in on timeout. Woof! Doofus was shocked, though it didn't know why it was being punished. The husky still obeyed Lu-ran's command. It turned its head away in resentment and made a note to remember this grudge. As Doofus stood solemnly in the corner, Lu-ran sat down in front of it and looked at it with a serious expression. Lu-ran had just gained his ability when he adopted Doofus. He was not even sure if it had been abandoned or ran away from home. Lu-ran decided to adopt the puppy since at the time he still could fully communicate with it despite already being proficient with his ability. Theoretically, considering his mastery over his skill back then, it should have been difficult for him to communicate with animals of higher intelligence like cats and dogs. However, this guy seemed like its mental elevator didn't reach the top floor. Since he wanted to further train his abilities, and was worried that such a young puppy would not be able to survive on its own, possibly ending up in a dog meat restaurant, Lu-ran took it home. The day he adopted that husky was the day his personal hell on earth began. The dog turned out to be so chaotic and extreme that even with his telepathy it took forever to train him. It used to be extremely ferocious and aggressive, only becoming more well-mannered afterward. Doofus was undeniably unique. It was as if it had perfectly inherited the foolishness of huskies, but also the ferocity of its wolf ancestry. The ran found its personality quite similar to the Yazi, the second of the mythical 9 sons of the dragon, too. According to ancient records, the Yazi was bloodthirsty, aggressive, and stubborn. It had a striking glare and would seek vengeance over the smallest transgressions maneuver. It held a sword in its mouth, on the hilt and guard of which it would carve patterns to increase its power. Like the Yazi Doofus enjoyed fighting and held grudges. However, unlike the Yazi, it would forget those grudges after a nap, and it mostly maintained a good attitude. Doofus' strong point was its gratitude. Luckily, it wasn't an ingrate. Upon realizing that Luran was its savior, it began to obey his every command. Luran sat on the sofa and looked directly at the captain of the timeout corner, unsure of where to begin. Captain Doofus. Luran had picked the nickname Captain Doofus because it was way too domineering when it was young, making it seem like the captain of all other domineering dogs. Likewise, Captain Doofus also called Luran Captain Lu. Things have become quite complicated. According to the black card, both the Beastmaster and their familiar would experience different types of transformation upon establishing a contract. The Beastmaster would gain superhuman abilities, while the familiar, no matter how small and weak it had been before, would gain the strength of a beast. Apparently, this black card gave its holder a path to an extraordinary evolution. Luran wasn't sure if the decision he made for himself and Captain Doofus was the right one or not. Puzzled by Luran's odd behavior, Captain Doofus tilted its head and stared at him with its big blue eyes. Luran laughed. "Forget it, I won't discuss it with you. You're not smart enough to understand it anyway." However, he quickly turned serious while it was just a dog. Luran believed in Captain Doofus's strength. After all, the dog had been trained by someone with a superpower and moreover, it was the animal he was closest to. He would feel comfortable entrusting his life to another. Most importantly, though Captain Doofus was a battle junkie, hence he wouldn't have to worry about whether it was suitable for combat. That made it the best candidate he had right now. Having made up his mind, Luran took out the black card and threw it in the air. In response, the card emitted a halo of light and flew toward Captain Doofus. "It's light," then expanded toward the dog. Bewildered and afraid, the husky turned around and fled. But the dazzling light quickly enveloped it. Anyone who had a contract card could establish a mental link with it, allowing them to use it telepathically. This was the crux of capturing familiars. There were 3 steps to contracting a familiar. First, a Beastmaster would have to hold their card. They would then picture their target in their mind and convey their desire to form a contract with it. Lastly, they had to hold the contract card close to their target. Once the contract card was near the target, it would attempt to capture the creature. If it succeeds, the contract will be complete. Luran completed those 3 steps smoothly. Captain Doofus didn't resist the approaching light, since it felt like Luran's aura. With a confused cry, it turned into a beam of light and got sucked into the card. At that moment, a roar went off in Luran's mind. A warm and comfortable sensation washed over him, melting away the mental fatigue from using the card. More importantly, he could feel that the bond between him, the card, and Captain Doofus had grown stronger. "Amazing," Luran muttered. His eyes flashed as he telepathically made the contract card, which he had thrown out, disappear in midair and reappear in his hand. The completion of the contract had truly bound him to the card, which in turn gave him this ability. A picture of Captain Doofus replaced the original black background of the top half of the card. Right under the image were a few lines about his species. Husky, attribute, unawakened, species rank, intermediate, transcendent, level, 1A, skills, none. It did just like a trading card. While looking at the image and information on the black card, Luran became even more confused about its origin. Who invented this thing? And for what purpose? However, the most pressing matter to Luran was that a countdown had replaced the prompts that he had first seen on the card. Beginner trial, secret realm teleportation countdown, 59 minutes and 59 seconds. Luran fell silent, but he wasn't really surprised. This was all within his expectations. The OPEP of the post that he had seen earlier had gone through this previously, hadn't he? Hence Luran was already expecting a beginner trial to begin once he had completed the beginner mission. "Come out, Captain Doofus," summoned out of the card. Captain Doofus howled. "Howoo!" A large summoning circle appeared on the floor, and the light from the array burst out. As it dissipated, Doofus appeared, now a size bigger than before. Dumbfounded by this whole ordeal, Doofus frantically ran around in circles in an attempt to get a good look at its enlarged self. The changes to its body confused it a little. Doofus could feel that it had grown stronger and that its vision, nose, and other senses had heightened. More importantly, its appetite had also increased. After spinning around 2 more times, its stomach growled famished. It shot Luran a pitiful look. "Let's eat." We still have plenty of time, Luran said. That they were about to enter a dangerous place, Luran had to let Doofus eat and drink its fill first. Hence, he threw together some pig trotters, minced meat, salad, and soup. He tried to keep everything relatively simple, mainly because there wasn't much time to cook anything too fancy. Captain Doofus let out an excited bark before burying its head in the food bowl. Luran watched Captain Doofus scarf down his food without a break. The medium-sized dog was much bigger now. No wonder that familiar cat from before was so big when a Beastmaster familiar evolved. It became significantly stronger. I feel more powerful too. It doesn't look like I got any taller though. While Captain Doofus was eating, Luran measured his weight and height. He then went to his room, took out a one-handed sword, and swung it a few times to get used to it. Added his parents were renowned zoologists. Luran's family was quite well off. In addition to inspiring his interest in various animals, his superior family background allowed him to explore various other hobbies. For example, like most teenagers, Luran was interested in swords and guns, and his parents were very supportive of his interest. When Luran was a child, he went to a well-known kendo dojo to study swordsmanship. Once during the holidays, he even went to Hawaii with his father and learned how to shoot, though useless before. His hobbies had become a lot more practical. Since he was about to be teleported to the trial's secret realm, he'd at least try to bring a weapon for self-defense. When Captain Doofus was still extremely aggressive, Luran was sure that he could easily subdue it with a weapon in hand. But now, due to the contract Dren enhancement, he could vaguely feel that Captain Doofus's combat power exceeded an ordinary dog. Having evolved into a superior species, its combat power was now on par with lions and tigers. In comparison, although Luran had also gotten a boost in strength, it was as drastic as the changes to his familiar. The main ability he acquired was better control over Captain Doofus, however. Since he could entirely rely on his familiar, he needed to have a handy weapon to protect himself with. Unfortunately, he didn't know if he could teleport a weapon with him. Moran put down his custom-made sword and took out an item from a drawer. "I'd take this with me too." It was an old white pendant in the shape of a small horn. It was made from a cracked deer antler and tied to a string. Since it was supposedly a family heirloom passed down from generation to generation from his mother's side of the family, Luran attached a lot of sentimental value to it. Thinking about his parents made Luran feel a bit downcast. They had died while researching a previously undiscovered species abroad, and their remains were never found. All they had left behind was a recording of their screams as they were attacked. He had always wanted to go to the jungle to personally search for them. Hence, when Fang Lan heard Luran say that he was interested in hunting, she immediately thought that Luran was considering going to the jungle again. However, as Luran had mentioned before, if he really wanted to go to such a dangerous place, how could he rely on a dog like Captain Doofus and just walk to his own death? It would be much easier for him to spend some money. But now, by the time, Luran returned to the living room with the antler, pendant, and steel sword. Captain Doofus had already finished the bowl of food and was lazily sprawled out on the floor. When it saw Luran come out, it stood up, panting and smiling. Woof! Luran's expression sank. Doofus had just told him that the feeling earlier was amazing and wanted him to do it again. It seemed that it wanted to become stronger. "You're way too greedy. I can do that again, but you will soon be able to fight to your heart's content. If you can defeat your opponents and come back alive, you might become stronger." Woo! Though stunned at first, Captain Doofus' expression soon turned serious. It walked a few steps, put on the sunglasses that were under the coffee table, and began to show its arrogant side. Luran didn't pay any attention to the excited Captain Doofus and its shades. Besides the weapon and pendant, he also packed some medicine, bottled water, snacks, and some survival gear. It was a bit heavy, but it was better to be prepared. He could just ditch it if he was in danger anyway. Time gradually passed as Luran prepared and lectured Captain Doofus. "Are you sure you understand? Even though you grew stronger physically, it doesn't look like you became any smarter." Luran felt a headache coming as he nagged and examined Captain Doofus, who was waiting impatiently. He tried to make the husky understand what was going to happen and instill the need to be careful, but it just sat there with a disdainful expression. What is it thinking? Luran felt a chill in his heart. He had a bad feeling about all this, but there were only a few minutes left in the countdown, so he tried to not overthink. "Okay, that's it. Return to the card," Luran ordered. After recalling Captain Doofus, he put the card away. This way, he wouldn't have to worry about being separated. Once Captain Doofus was in the card, Luran closed his eyes to rest. Even then, he could still see the countdown clearly. With the final seconds ticking away, Luran couldn't help but feel nervous. He was just a high school student, after all. 3 toot. Ripples began to appear in the air as the space around Lurane twisted like a whirlpool. Soon it swallowed him up and transported him to another dimension, except for the clothes on his back and the pendant around his neck. Everything else, including the backpack, sword, and food, was left behind. Luran felt as if he were constantly shifting between being heavy and weightless. He never thought that teleportation would be so uncomfortable. When his vertigo subsided, Luran opened his eyes to a dense dark forest. A message window popped up before him, along with a familiar vor. Teleportation completed. Curled location, Demon Cat Forest, beginner trial, secret realm. Typical easy, mission, survive for 1 day. Introduction. Demon Cat Forest is a natural maze formed by different trees. It is rich in resources and was once inhabited by many extraordinary creatures, however. 20 years ago, a mysterious black rainstorm appeared and deated the forest creatures. The resulting beast tide invaded the nearby towns, but the Empire Beastmaster Corps swiftly suppressed it and eliminated the other powerful mutant creatures in the forest. After 20 years of restoration, only the demon cat race and some weaker monsters remain active in the area. Hence, the forest came to be known as the Demon Cat Forest. You have accidentally entered this place as a new Beastmaster. Your main objective is to survive and wait for rescue. Tip 1. This secret realm is a projection of the Demon Cat Forest. Its resources and creatures cannot be taken away or contracted. Tip 2. Upon completing the mission, the trial taker will be rewarded based on their performance. Tip 3. Falling into a near-death state will result in mission failure and ejection. Tip 4. The trial taker will temporarily obtain the Eye of Detection, which can inspect the information of resources and creatures inside the secret realm. The trial has begun. Have a great adventure. I see. The third tip made Luran feel that the creator of the black card was a bit humane, however. Even though the trial taker would be teleported out of the secret realm, just like the OP of the post that he had seen a while back, they might not be able to get medical treatment. Enemies could also simply kill them in one shot, which would render the feature useless. What did it mean by this secret realm being a projection of another world? Though Black Rainstorm Beast Tide no of this sounded beginner-friendly, prudence was key. It was too early to get excited. Luran summoned Captain Doofus soon after. He exclaimed, "Mashoot! I could bring the sword and supplies." It was a pity, but he had already prepared for the worst. It seems everything in this place is just an illusion. I don't know if I can find food here. I can take anything away with me either, but can I at least use the resources I find while inside the realm? Captain Doofus appeared again, and with a blank expression, ran around energetically. "Woof!" Luran was speechless. "Damn it, Ken! That you be serious? You are not out for a walk." "Hey, Russell." The sudden noise interrupted Luran's thoughts and made him blank out cautiously. He looked around. Sensing danger, Captain Doofus stopped circling Luran and stood on alert. It grew taut with tension, as it prepared to protect Luran Ruff. Something was approaching. The rustle coming from the unbearably silent forest was growing louder. To make matters worse, they were in a very dark area, with only a few scattered rays of sunlight falling through the leaves to the ground. Standing on damp ground, Luran tried to determine where the sound was coming from. However, he could seem to pinpoint it. Captain Doofus, on the other hand, had locked its intense glare onto a direction the whole time. Following its gaze to waist-high bushes, he asked, "There." The rustling grew clearer, until finally a creature pushed through the bushes in front of Luran and Captain Doofus. Its red pupils, filled with unconcealable ferocity, glared at them as it let out a series of growls. Captain Doofus bristled up and growled loudly in response. "Grrr!" The creature dared to threaten them. Captain Doofus was sure to remember this as a grudge. As the two faced off, Luran's eyes widened. The feline creature had a thin, dark red body, huge claws, and a long gray mane. A demon cat staring at the beast. Luran's eye of detection activated, revealing all information about its species. Demon cat, attribute, unawakened, species rank, intermediate, transcendent, level 2. Description. A bloody hunter of the dense forests that enjoys tearing open its opponent and sucking their blood. The species rank probably determines how strong the species is. Tigers are stronger than house pets, and house pets are stronger than small herbivores like rabbits. This demon cat rank is the same as Captain Doofus, so Captain Doofus should be at a disadvantage. Its level has to be linked to its power level. The higher the level, the stronger they are. Captain Doofus is only level 1, while that cat is level 2. This isn't that good. Luran instantly judged that it would be an easy opponent. As the two sides confronted each other, the atmosphere became increasingly tense. Holding his breath, Luran tried to calm himself down and observe his surroundings. The beginner mission was just to survive for a day, which meant they did have to go head-to-head with this creature. Moreover, considering the trial had just started, it would be far better to forage for supplies and find a safe place to hunker down for now. He needed to conserve his energy and only fight when absolutely necessary. Assuming he could escape right now, running away might help him avoid conflict. On the other hand, though fleeing could simply provoke the creature into chasing him, trying to outrun it in an unknown terrain would put him on the back foot and waste even more energy right now. His best bet was to scare the enemy off. Hence, after careful consideration, Luran made a move that surprised both Captain Doofus and the demon cat. Glaring at the demon cat, he suddenly spread his arms to make himself appear larger. He then roared at it to scare it away. Bruh! His father, who often dealt with wild animals, once told him that if he encountered a ferocious beast in the wild, it would be best to look it in the eyes and make a show of courage. If he were lucky enough for the beast to not know humans very well, he'd have a very small chance of scaring it away. He'd at least die with courage. However, after acting all kinds of intimidating, Luran felt that the atmosphere only began to get awkward. Captain Doofus looked confused, and the demon cat expression twisted. However, the demon cat soon roared back and pounced on Luran. Luran couldn't help but curse. Where did I go wrong? Worse, his telepathy did seem to work with this monster. The demon cat movements were very agile. However, since he too had become stronger, Luran could easily track its movements. Luran gave up on any other ideas and decided to just face the demon cat head-on. It was just a cat, and he had dealt with more than just a handful of felines in the last 10 years. He had even picked up a baby tiger by the scruff of its neck. No, this isn't the right way to handle this. He was a Beastmaster now, and he had to get used to commanding familiars instead of getting involved himself. Captain Doofus, save me! Luran shouted, stepping into his new role. Keep it occupied while I look for a weapon. As he stepped back to look around for a rock or large stick, the confused Captain Doofus became alert again and pounced on the attacking demon cat. In a flash, the two animals collided. Right after, a shrill scream echoed across the dense forest, followed by a low growl. Keki! Luran quickly turned around, finding the demon cat pinned down on the ground under Captain Doofus' claw. Its throat had been bitten out, and blood was gushing out of it like a fountain. Captain Doofus growled domineeringly over the dying feline. It had killed the demon cat, which had looked so tough with a single blow. Stunned, Luran wasn't even sure anymore if he should pick up the rock at his feet or not. Was my in-depth analysis and battle of wits and courage with the demon cat for nothing? Seems like I somewhat underestimated how Captain Doofus's improved combat abilities would fare against the demon cat. Captain Doofus, who stood in the distance, raised its head and howled like a god of war. It then looked at Luran as if to say that it was too easy. Luran felt something wasn't right here. Could there be a difference even between similarly ranked species? Was the gap between level 1 and level 2 smaller than I thought? The demon cat was certainly smaller than Captain Doofus, sure enough. In nature, body size largely contributed to one in combat power. Good work. You've proven yourself worthy to become my familiar, Luran commented. He didn't really know what else to say after all. He didn't expect that Captain Doofus could be so fierce in its normal state. Captain Doofus put on a wise expression. Woof. Oh, stop. You're making me blush. Doofus eliminated the demon cat with ease. Luran looked at the cat, broken neck, finding the sight quite morale. Though all this was supposed to be a projection, it all seemed so real. I'm sorry you had to die so miserably, but it was either you or me. Before Luran could contemplate for too long, the demon cat turned into a white light, shattered, and disappeared. Woof! Captain Doofus watched in shock as its spoils of war disappeared. Some speckles of light remained, though. They condensed into a ball the size of a firefly and flew into Captain Doofus, surprising it even more wide. After it felt itself growing even stronger. You got stronger through fighting? Noticing a change in Captain Doofus, Luran pulled out his contract card and checked its level. To his confusion, though it was still at level 1. I should be right, although it isn't much. Killing that monster has made Captain Doofus stronger. Lurane's thoughts began to race. Does it need to kill more monsters to level up? How many does it need to kill, though? Wait. Maybe this is the purpose of this trial. He originally just planned to avoid all conflicts and survive the day, completing the beginner trial peacefully. Once he got a clear grasp of the situation, he could then make new plans and try more difficult challenges. However, having learned that killing monsters could make Captain Doofus stronger, his plans began to change. Captain Doofus's gain a few levels here. The final reward seemed to be related to his performance in the trial. Fighting their way through would likely earn them different rewards from simply being cautious and surviving. This trial would be as bad as he thought. It could even be a good training opportunity. The OP of the article that he had read most likely only ended up so miserable because they were too weak. Of course, it was also possible that there were actually more powerful enemies in this secret realm. Still, at the very least, Captain Doofus should be able to handle demon cats with ease. Luran continued to deliberate on how to make the most of this opportunity. He had a hunch that this mysterious black card would one day impact the real world, but he was also worried about his greed putting him in danger. Woof. While Luran was lost in thought, Captain Doofus kept digging the ground, seemingly hoping to find the missing demon cat. Luran frowned. Stop. That thing is gone. We've staying here for a bit, so get some rest and replenish your strength. Captain Doofus tilted his head in confusion. Woof. Ignoring the dog, Luran focused on the Eye of Detection effect, disappointed that it didn't show him an X bar for Captain Doofus. If he knew how many demon cats had to be killed before his familiar could gain a level, it would make it easier for him to plan ahead. Luran did make an unexpected discovery, though Eye of Detection could show him his own infernate race. Human Beastmaster rank, Apprentice, Beastmaster Squilms. None, although it was all just very basic information. The Beastmaster Splinks part still piqued his interest. Captain Doofus's information window also had a Ossis skills section, but it was blank. If they could get skills, maybe their combat prowess would improve. How do we acquire skills? Though we made quite a bit of noise during the scuffle just now. That will probably attract more monsters. So all we have to do is wait here. At least in a clearing this large, we'll still be able to maintain a certain degree of control, even if we encounter more monsters. Luran told Captain Doofus, having decided that staying here was better than going through thick bushes. He left whatever happened from here on up to fate. Captain Doofus nodded in agreement. Rough. In its mind, Luran was responsible for thinking, and it was responsible for fighting. Keep an eye on your surroundings, Luran warned while they waited for prey. Luran continued to observe the area with the Eye of Detection. The prompts not only showed him the information of creatures, but also the information of resources. What are resources? After some exploration, Luran finally made a huge discovery. The Eye of Detection didn't show any information about ordinary weeds and trees, but it worked on some nearby strange plants that stood out to him, including a red mushroom that he had found under a tree. Name: hemostatic mushroom. Crade. Common. Description: a mushroom that gradually heals wounds. Can be crushed and applied directly on wounds. Caution: oral consumption is not recommended and may cause hallucinations of little people dancing. Walking on, he also found some green fruits on a thin tree that looked different from of. Name: wood scale fruit. Grade: common. Description: a juicy fruit that satiates hunger and restores physical strength. Loved by fruit insects. Those who consume it have a high probability of obtaining additional protein. I'm glad I found resources without having to explore too far. This item is outrageous, though. Luran felt his stomach churn. If they had escaped from here at the start, he doubted they could find similar resources elsewhere. Their unappealing descriptions aside, the two items seemed quite useful, for as long as they didn't run into any strong monsters. These two items should help them stay in one place and farm for X for a while. Surveying for these things should be usable, right? Recalling how the demon cat just disappeared, Luran was worried that picking the hemostatic mushroom and wood scale fruit would make them vanish too. Luran quickly realized that he was just overthinking, though after he dug out a hemostatic mushroom, it did not disappear. It seemed it just could be taken out of the secret realm. Luran's eyes lit up. With these things in hand, he was more confident that he could make Captain Doofus level up quite a bit. Not bad. While Luran was lost in a good mood, he felt a wave of heat hit him. Captain Doofus had run over. It panted and drooled at the mushrooms, asking if it could eat them. Rue, didn't you just eat before coming here? Woof, you've only been in one fight so far. How could it all be burned off? Anyway, this is an external medicine. Not meant for eating. You are not allowed to eat anything here without my permission. Woof! With a disdainful gaze, Luran firmly answered, No means no. After a short back and forth, Captain Doofus finally gave up on eating the mushroom. Interestingly enough, Doofus actually preferred to eat vegetables and fruits over meat, earning it the nickname Salad Dog. Luran began to pick wood scale fruits, albeit with some difficulty, although he and Captain Doofus ate before they came here. It would only keep them satiated for half a day at most. Once they got hungry again, their physical performance would inevitably decline. At that time, the wood-scale fruit would prove crucial, since it could restore a certain amount of stamina, sate hunger, and quench thirst. Luran collected all the wood-scale fruits and hemostatic mushrooms nearby. All in all, about half an hour had passed since they first arrived. To his surprise, though they didn't encounter new monsters, Luran frowned. But we have to take the initiative and hunt? Rustle, rustle, rustle. Captain Doofus, who was lying on the ground and dozing off, suddenly opened its eyes and became alert. Luran brightened up. Experienced fodder is on its way. Woof, woof! However, the rustles soon started to come from all around them, causing his happiness to quickly die down and his heart to drop. It seemed multiple monsters were rushing toward them at once. A drop of sweat ran down Luran's face. The black bushes were torn apart again and 5 figures emerged from them. Captain? Doofus and Luran were both stunned and speechless. Oh, was not this supposed to be a beginner's secret realm? Luran was confused. Was the creator of the secret realm targeting him? He wasn't hacking. Please, listen to me. Luran's scalp went numb as he started to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 demon cats had appeared. Damn, do demon cats live in packs? The 5 demon cats stared at Luran and his familiar. It could have been fine if there were just 5 normal demon cats. However, he could tell that the last one to appear was bigger than the rest, and even comparable to Captain Doofus in stature. Unlike the other skinny demon cats, it was very muscular. He used his eye of detection on the Mansa race, demon cat. Attribute: unawakened, species rank, intermediate, transcendent, level 3. Luran pursed his lips. It was a level 3 demon cat. Outnumbered, he contemplated running away. Unfortunately, the 5 demon cats had already surrounded them. They couldn't escape even if they wanted to. What do we do? Should I have Captain Doofus enter that state? That state referred to a unique change that could occur in Captain Doofus. Luran nightmares could be considered a flaw? Then so could that state? Perhaps that was why the two were destined to meet whenever Captain Doofus entered that state during a fight. Its potential would always seemingly fully unlock, greatly increasing its power. This hidden power was the reason Luran believed in its strength. However, going into a frenzy also always made Captain Doofus lose all reason and sense of pain like a rabid dog, gonily. Only Luran's telepathy could awaken it from that state. But every time he did, it would fall unconscious for a while. Having deemed it dangerous, he never really liked it when Captain Doofus entered such a state. Hence Luran used his previous combat experience to quickly adapt instead. Forget it! Let's handle this one step at a time. Don't worry about me and just focus on taking them down, he ordered. Don't forget to keep an eye on the leader of the pack, though. Fortunately, while foraging, he found a sturdy long stick that he could use as a weapon. With his enhanced physique, Luran felt that he had a decent chance of killing a low-level demon cat using the stick as long as he didn't get his neck slashed by one. He'd likely have trouble dealing with the huge level 3 demon cat. Though loose, it all depended on Captain Doofus. Meow! The demon cat that acted as the leader did not seem to plan on joining the fight right away. Instead, with a roar, it sent the level 1 and level 2 demon cats charging toward them. Perhaps sensing that Captain Doofus was the bigger threat, they all ponetized taking it down. They pounced and swiped their sharp claws at it. Suddenly, a rock came flying through the air, striking a demon cat right on the head. Lucky shot. Luran, holding the stick in one hand and another rock in the other, looked at the demon cat that he had just hit as it lay stunned. It glared back at him, making him grip the stick tighter. In the meantime, Captain Doofus had already engaged with the other 3 demon cats. Using its incredible combat abilities, it swiftly bit onto the neck of a demon cat and instantly killed it, causing blood to splatter everywhere. Nevertheless, although powerful, it could only handle one opponent at a time. The other demon cats' claws flashed as they cut into Captain Doofus. Back and sides, blood gushed out of the lacerations. Awoo! A sharp pain coursed through Captain Doofus, making its blue eyes turn bloodshot. It furiously hit the demon cat closest to it. Luran wanted to check on Captain Doofus, but he had already attracted the attention of a demon cat. Putting him in peril, he rushed forward with his wooden stick as the demon cat that he had hit earlier pounced into the air and swung at him with its claws. While swinging his stick, Luran swiftly realized that the demon cat wanted to break his weapon. Its claws were certainly sharp enough to cut through, however. Luran did not plan to fight his opponent head. On using the length advantage of his polearm, he changed the trajectory of his attack and avoided the opponent's claws. He then jabbed the stick into the demon cat, sending it flying several meters away. I should sharpen this stick. Luran closed in, while the demon cat was in midair. Luckily, he had gained experience in training from dealing with many animals that were difficult to tame ever since he was a child, including disobedient large dogs. A normal person would definitely have been timid when faced with a situation like this. Half of the reason Captain Doofus was so obedient now was that Luran had trained it with a stick. After all, he was the only one who could keep its fighting instincts suppressed. A name. Captain Lu was Captain Doofus, recognition of Luran. Luran tried to hit the demon cat in the head, but since the blow earlier was non-lethal, it managed to quickly stand up with a quick twist as soon as it fell to the ground. It then charged toward him once more. It's useless. Luran tried to use the same trick again, but as he focused on his opponent, a sudden roar stopped the demon cat in its tracks. It then backed up a few steps, seemingly having given up. Luran's expression sank. He quickly looked at the alpha demon cat, thinking that it was about to attack Atenten. To his surprise, though, it was simply staring intently at him with a human-like expression. Soon after, it turned around and retreated, and the 2 remaining demon cats followed. Captain Doofus howled, expressing his desire to give chase. However, Luran ordered it to wait. As commanded, although it maintained a fierce stance, it began to suppress its aggression and merely stared at the retreating monsters. Captain Doofus was already injured and bleeding, which was the condition for it entering the rabid dog state. Now that the demon cats had taken the initiative to retreat, though Luran had decided against using it, the 2 watched their opponents retreat deeper into the jungle. Eventually, the demon cats disappeared, allowing Luran to finally breathe a sigh of relief. As his tense nerves relaxed, he looked at his shaking hands, although he didn't know why the alpha demon cat ordered a retreat. They would obviously be at a disadvantage if they continued to fight. Even if they ultimately won, it would be a Pyrrhic victory with serious injuries. This is a freaking beginner trial. Ow ow. Dissatisfied by its inability to kill 5 enemies in 1 second, Captain Doofus now looked extremely depressed. Although they were heavily outnumbered, it didn't think they would lose. Sorry, Captain Doofus, the situation is just too complicated for me to let you fight as much as you want much next time. Huh? Wait. It seemed Captain Doofus had gone through some chains. Race Husky. Attribute Unawakened Species Rank. Intermediate. Transcendent. Level 2 skills. None without realizing it. Captain Doofus reached level 2 after killing another demon cat consequently. All of its stats had increased. That explained how Captain Doofus still managed to knock the demon cat several meters away, despite it already being wounded twice. Luran couldn't help but be happy. The alpha demon cat probably ordered its subordinates to test you, Captain Doofus, but when it discovered that you could kill them in an instant, and sensed that your aura had grown stronger, it quickly decided to retreat. Your endlessly growing aggression more than likely scared it too. Pabal definitely had the numerical advantage, but their leader refused to risk getting hurt just for 2 prey. In nature, if a predator was injured during a hunt, it's common for its status in the pack to decline and its nemesis to kill it. Although the projected creatures here are extremely aggressive, they likely still follow some of their natural instincts. They're probably only hunting for food, not mindlessly attacking anything that moved if. So then I made the right judgment in battle. Victory isn't always the top priority. He could survive for as long as he could scare the enemy into a retreat. Luran had only taken an instant to completely analyze the situation, although he didn't know if he was correct. It seemed to be one of the only sensible explanations at the moment. Anyway, Captain Doofus, come here and let me treat you. Now, Wolf, Captain Doofus, who had just made another great contribution, ran over. Luran looked at its wounds and then looked at the hemostatic mushrooms that he had collected. I don't know its effects, but it's the only thing I can count on right now. I hope this thing is more effective than the medicine I prepared be who he could use the mushroom, though Captain Doofus stopped moving around. As if in a daze, it stared at his neck. Wolf! Luran wasn't sure when it started, but his antler pendant was now emitting a faint golden glow. As the golden light approached, Captain Doofus felt its blood being suppressed, as if it had encountered a tiger, and was woken up from its daze. The dim light grew increasingly brighter, eventually becoming so strong that Luran noticed his pendant changing. To his confusion, the Eye of Detection showed him an information window about the pendant. Luran looked at the pendant with confusion. How is this possible? I didn't even notice it was teleported with me. Just like when he had gained a special ability and received a black card, he couldn't help but be surprised when his pendant began to change. He had already started to sense that a deeper mystery was hidden behind all this. Hence, finding out that even his family heirloom had a mysterious origin shocked him even more. Looking at the card floating in his mind, his thoughts began to race. These supernatural phenomena did seem new to the world. Rather, they had likely existed since ancient times. His heirloom definitely had something to do with everything else that was happening. There are still too many unknowns. One of my ancestors also became a Beastmaster and got this deer horn from a secret realm. But if these contract cards have existed since ancient times, why aren't there any records of them if it wasn't for that article Fangland showed me or the contract card that appeared in my hand? How many people have this cursed place selected and turned into Beastmasters? Ow ow. Captain Doofus cried out in pain, interrupting Luran's train of thought and bringing him back to the situation at hand. Oh, ow. I'll use this to heal you. The healing power of an epic, divine deer should be better than the common hematotic mushrooms I found on the ground. The pendant's dormant state prevented it from displaying its power, but it also allowed it to avoid being detected until now. When it entered this place and absorbed a certain amount of spiritual energy, it awakened and returned to its original state. Luran looked at Captain Doofus and held a hemostatic mushroom as he took off the pendant, feeling the familiar sensation of the contract card. He then took a deep breath and focused, honing in on his desire to heal Captain Doofus. Heal. The divine deer pendant emitted a golden light that wrapped around Captain Doofus's wound before his eyes. His familiar and jagged wounds quickly melted away. In just a few seconds, they disappeared without a scar. Except for a few bald spots, Captain Doofus looked exactly the same as before. Luran could also tell that it felt fully rejuvenated. Moom. As always, Captain Doofus had no idea what was going on. Nevertheless, Luran's expression brightened. He rubbed Captain Doofus where its wounds used to be. You've become bald, but at least something good came out of it. You're in a lot tougher now. Woof! Captain Doofus looked down at itself with a depressed expression. However, its gaze soon heated up as it turned toward the pendant in Luran's hand. I don't know what happened, but are we invincible now? It thought. Luran smiled. Forget it. I'll think about the heirloom when I get back. Woof woof, Captain Doofus's eyes beamed. It then shook its fur, feeling as though it could take on 50 cats. The pendant was too overpowered for. As long as it didn't get killed instantly, it could recover from any injury. Don't overdo it, Luran warned. We can't just rely on the protection of our ancestors. We will need to learn to adapt in case of emergencies. He tightly clutched the pendant and took a deep breath, his mother-red face appearing in his mind. Although he didn't exactly know what the divine deer pendant was, he knew that it was definitely the biggest ace up his sleeve thanks to it. Their survival rate in this secret realm had just become a lot higher, making his plan to grind out levels a lot more realistic. Now that he had an epic item, Luran felt that laying low would be a disgrace to the heirloom his ancestors had left behind. especially since Captain Doofus. With the situation allowing for it, Luron wanted to capitalize on this opportunity by making Captain Doofus level up and increase its combat power as much as possible. Not doing so could lead to disastrous consequences. If a crisis arose in the future, he would require the strength to protect himself and his loved ones. Why could he be the hero for once? Someone had to stand at the top anyway. If he could become a champion amongst insect fighters, then what was stopping him from becoming a king amongst beastmasters? That dream I saw about the city being attacked. If it came true, I should be able to save the city as long as I become stronger. Thinking about his dream only motivated Luron even further deep in the jungle 4 hours later. Stupid, didn't I tell you that even though we have a healing item you should avoid getting injured? After recovering, Luron and Captain Doofus became ambitious enough to start hunting for prey. Most of their prey were between levels 1 and 3 and were intermediate ranked transcendent species. One of the monsters that they had fought was the saber-eared rabbit, an extremely aggressive rabbit species. With its low strength, however, it was obviously looking to die. Another was the giant rat, which was a bit bigger than a duck and turned out to be quite fragile. Too bad he was in an illusory realm and didn't have the right equipment-wise. Luron would like to dissect and study these creatures. They did not stand a chance against Captain Doofus, even when some of them were 1 or 2 levels higher. In comparison, the demon cats were a lot harder to deal with after all. It was called the Demon Cat Forest, and these monsters were just prey to the demon cats. Luron felt that facing these other monsters was a lot more in tune with the usual difficulty of a beginner's secret realm. However, the low-level mobs aside, some other enemies proved difficult to deal with too, like the level 3 intermediate, transcendent green snake. Captain Doofus kept being heavily injured during the battles, though the healing power of the divine deer pendant seemed to have given it a sense of security, making it fight more recklessly. It would openly trade gruesome blows head-on until it won out in the wild. Most battles were fought for food and survival, and injuries often resulted in death, but Captain Doofus didn't have to care about any of it. Hence it quickly discovered a new, very extreme fighting style that made Luron